Welcome to Roundhouse Roulette, a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. Thanks for joining us as we recap and review one of the 200 existing Walker, Texas Ranger episodes randomly selected by Roundhouse Roulette. I'm Evan Dalton, here with my brother Adam.
What's going on?
And our brother, Mr. Bob Leahy.
How you doing, brother?
Well, we'd like to thank you all for joining us as we watch Chuck Norris's religious conversion program. A little odd. This episode we're going to recap and review is Season 9, Episode 13, titled Division Street, where Walker and his fellow Rangers enlist the help of Hulk Hogan to stop a gang war through basketball and religious conversion.
Why not?
Yeah. But, before we ditch our Junko jeans and put on our Blue Angels jerseys, join us as we pull up a stool at CD's Bar and Grill. It's been a while, guys.
It's been a while.
I wish I could say a lot's changed in the world, but it really hasn't. So
No, I don't think so. Walker still rules, so.
There is that.
What's CD got on tap for us this week?
Wow, let me tell you, this week CD has a Fiasco, which is an Imperial IPA, which I thought the I in IPA stands for Imperial anyways. So let's call it a double Imperial IPA.
Well, the I is India Pale Ale.
You're absolutely right.
So
The
Imperial.
more you know. Or don't, apparently.
Apparently not. Yeah, okay. My bad.
I went to beer college.
I think it's probably because most of the IPAs we have are like Imperial IPAs on this,
Yeah.
on this
At least
podcast.
double.
So-
Yeah, at least double. This is actually even higher than most of the doubles that CD usually has for us.
Yes. Well, this Fiasco IPA is described as, what in the Imperial IPA madness is this? A fiasco of fragrant fresh zested lime? Bursts of melon and crisp pear with a hint of smashed peach from barely contained levels of Motueka, Enigma, and Cashmere?
Whoa.
Wow, I mean,
It reads like a Jeopardy clue.
yeah, it's like the Riddler was here or something. I guess the only way to answer that riddle is to crack this open.
This is by Bearded Iris Brewing in Nashville. I will say, their website, worth a look. The most beautifully, marketed cans of beer you could imagine.
Good can art.
Well, you should check out the webpage for this brew because every one of their cans has crazy art on it, but the photo of the beer itself has a carefully staged photo of whatever that beer is about. So the Fiasco here has a glass in mid-spill.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm not done. Don't want a fiasco here at Roundhouse headquarters.
I'm just saying this has about the same alcohol content as wine, and it is a lot. So,
This is like 3 Coors Lights.
whew, and you can tell.
It's a little boozy, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I didn't brush my teeth today because this just did it for me.
Is that how it works? Alcohol cleans your teeth?
That's what I've been told.
And sterilizes whatever you eat. So if you ate something that was kind of dubious, like maybe you ate something off the floor,
Right, as one does.
yeah, just take a swig of this and it'll clear you right out. All right. Well, I will say this is boozy.
It's good, though.
It's got a lot of different flavors going on, yeah.
Okay. So speaking of fiascos, any news?
Yeah, let's jump into the headlines here. In, my regular diet of Googling what happened to Chuck Norris or Walker, Texas Ranger this week, I came across this article on comicbookresources.com, otherwise known as CBR.com. They had an article, 5 classic shows that aren't as good as you remember, and 5 that still hold up. And Walker, Texas Ranger was listed in this blog. And before we look, what do you think? Honestly, I think Walker, Texas Ranger held up because we have a podcast about it. So...
So the qualifiers are still holds up or aren't as good. And just prior to this is Cheers, which they say still holds up. Number 8 is Walker, Texas Ranger, and it says it's not as good. It says it spins its wheels for hundreds of hokey episodes.
Well, it does do that. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, that said, if you like what it's bringing to the table, you got plenty of it.
Exactly. And do we like what they bring to the table? I mean,
Undecided. The jury's still out.
so they say some of the most successful television series aren't necessarily programs that break new ground, but instead what are most comforting and accessible, like a police procedural or medical drama, you know? Mm-hmm. Walker, Texas Ranger is a schlocky look at criminal justice that lasted for more than 200 episodes across 9 seasons, mostly because of Chuck Norris's on-screen presence. Walker, Texas Ranger is quite thin, and now that the public's fascination with Norris has ended...
Whoa.
Wow, CBR. You guys are ice cold.
CBR with a hot take there.
Yeah,
No one cares about Chuck Norris anymore.
They're saying that now that people don't care about Chuck Norris, the series is less redeemable. Well, if anything, this podcast is here to prove that statement wrong, CBR.
I'm just going to say they should probably stick to comic books.
Yeah,
Right.
no kidding. Yeah. Be a resource, not an asshole, CBR, okay?
Wow.
Hot take.
Language, please.
Yeah.
It's going
all
to
right.
turn into a fiasco, I can tell.
Well, this next news item here begs the question, is Evan famous or just for the birds? Bob, do you want to pull up that article there?
Whoa, right there. Evan Dalton. Here's the catbird long before he sees it.
Evan, you were featured on Boston's public radio WBUR. What you tell me about this? You briefly mentioned it as like kind of a, I mean, you're trying to make me feel bad about myself by telling me that you were on the radio, I think. You might as well just tell us the full story here. What's going on?
The Boston's public radio news station came in and did a piece on the place that I work at.
Yeah, and so you work at a bird banding lab, and
It's a birdery, dude. It's a birdery.
yeah. Well, I like how they called all the people that work there banders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
wish I had a cool name like that.
Yeah, I know.
In North America, we're called banders, but anywhere else, we're called ringers.
So essentially, you guys briefly trap incoming birds in nets. You put a band on them, then release them, and then when the birds get back in the net, you write down the serial number on their anklet and plot who has been where and when.
Yeah, that's part of what we do, yeah. And the place I work at's been doing it for so long that we can actually compare numbers year to year. So we've been going for over 50 years. And through that, you know, we can gauge like population change and other types of patterns. Like some species are really on the rise because people are like feeding more birds. But most of the species, spoiler alert, are not doing so hot.
And sometimes your birds will get caught in nets at other banding labs all around the world, right?
Yeah, our birds primarily stay to like the eastern North America and Central America. Some of them go as far as like South America, which is pretty cool.
And people report them. They say, oh, we got this here. Here's the band number. So you keep track of the birds and where they are and their migration patterns.
Very true.
We'll share this up on our page for people interested in what Evan does. And you can let us know if he's, you know, famous or for the birds. That's really what we want to know. Let's jump to the socials here. I posted up about receiving my hardcover copy of Chuck Norris's book, The Secret Power Within, Zen Solutions to Real Problems. I started reading it, and I've got a few notes already, so I'll have a full report at some point. But I just posted the front and back of the book because, as we mentioned on the podcast, there are some amazing quotes. Like, I mean, you couldn't get a better lineup of testimonials for your new book.
I wouldn't say better, but probably stranger. Right?
Right.
If you listed these people off and you said, these people read a celebrity's biography, who was it? I don't think you'd land on Chuck Norris.
No,
I don't think
you
you'd
never
figure it out.
No, it's amazing that he was able to at least get the permission to draft a quote from them and put it on his book, because we heard from Roundhouse Roulette proofreader, I think it's Elisa, right?
I think she spelled it out phonetically in a previous post.
She corrected us. She definitely corrected us. And she's a master proofreader. And she posited the question, are these testimonials real? And I mean, they're as real as the fact that they're printed on the back of the jacket, though they all sound like they were written by the same person, all use the word autobiography and are all extremely vague. They're like, oh, I need a quote about the autobiography. Oh, what an amazing autobiography. Oh, this is a great autobiography. And none of them even talk about the subject of the book, which is Zen.
I think none of them read it, which is fair to say. And they were all paid money.
Right. And by them, we're talking about Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, Priscilla Presley, and Bob Barker.
The price was right.
It definitely was. So Chuck Norris was in an issue of Marvel's The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, and there was a big interview, a lot of pictures of him, one with him with Stan Lee, and actually a picture of him and comic artist and creator Jack Kirby. It shows both of them in white jeans standing next to one of his drawings, I'm assuming at Marvel headquarters. So it says Karate King Norris meets Comics King Kirby. I started following this Instagram account that was all Jack Kirby art. There was a post on there this week that I was like, this looks eerily familiar. Mm-hmm. Bob, do you want to break this down for us here?
So this is like a mural on the side of a building. And you're right, it does look familiar. Is that a reference to a movie or something? I don't even know.
It must be one of his pieces. I'm not sure exactly even what character that is.
Yeah, it looks like Thor or some dude with long blonde hair.
He's in like a raft in the Statue of Liberty and is fading into the water behind him. And someone took this art and redid it on this blue kind of house. It actually looks pretty badass.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like I've been to this blue house before.
You have indeed. This house is in Dracut, Massachusetts. And it's not a house at all. It's a comic book store with a bunch of spare space that they rent out as rehearsal spaces.
Yeah, so you used to have a rehearsal space under the comic book shop?
It was technically actually like above, but it was on a different part of the building.
In the comic book shop, it's called Command D.
Yeah, the Command D is nuts. That's correct.
There you go, Mike Rooney. There it is. Well, last news item here is kind of like a public service announcement here. For anybody who ever wanted to get into Judson Mills pants, we've got the news story for you.
Wow. This is the weirdest thing.
I occasionally browse eBay for Walker Texas Ranger oddities, and I might have hit maybe a dirty load here. Maybe not the mother load.
Okay. Yeah,
all right. That's enough.
You guys want to describe what I've discovered here?
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Okay. I thought it was just one pair. It's multiple pairs. So we've got 4 pairs of Wrangler jeans because we all know it's Walker Texas Ranger. They're wearing Wranglers.
Yeah, without a doubt.
The official jeans of Brett Favre and Chuck Norris. And apparently Judson Mills as well. Judson Mills apparently wore some pants on Walker Texas Ranger, and somebody is now selling them.
34 by 34.
If I lose a few pounds, I might be able to fit in those.
Let's see. Okay, I'm looking up this seller. It's CRZ Cowgirl. She sold over 6,000 items on eBay. So,
and they're based in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And they have the prop. I guess when you're doing wardrobe, you write the character name in the clothes. But she could have just written them in there, honestly, if she,
This is very weird. This person is also just selling a ton of denim jeans that look exactly like the ones that Judson Mills wore.
Yeah, is there any certificate of authenticity here?
And we're going to get... That's the job of this podcast, is to vet these posts by bringing them to Judson's attention this week on social media.
Oh, definitely. Oh, my God. Please.
That's what my job will be this week.
Like, hey, did you actually ever wear Wranglers? And are you a size 34, 34?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying to get in your pants, Judson.
Oh, my God. Please, yes. Because here's a pair of 34, 34s that have nothing to do with Judson Mills, and this person's still selling them.
All right. Well, here begs the question, guys. If they were your size, would you buy them? I'm leaving it out there.
I mean, what's the point? Why would you buy someone else's pants?
If you wanted to get into them.
Yeah, I don't follow. Sorry.
Okay. Well, they say you wanted to live out your fantasy of being Judson Mills on the show. You could get the pants and live out the fantasy. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, okay.
Well, Evan, would you wear? Say one of you guys. I'm not saying this happened, but say that one of these pairs of pants was en route to one of you. Would you at least try them on?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not saying it happened, but
I tell you right now, I'm not going to fit into no 34.
All right, Evan. You could get them hemmed.
I would definitely have to get them hemmed. Put it that way.
Would you?
Please don't buy these.
No promises. All right, let's move on.
I'll send you the tracking number.
Oh, what a mess. My God. Well, all right. We've got a lot to cover this week, and let's get on into it. If you're watching along at home and do not want any spoilers, and let's face it, you don't, hit that pause button and watch Season 9, Episode 13, Division Street, and come right on back to us. Well, welcome back. Let's dig into this one. This episode originally aired on February 3rd, 2001, and it opens on an establishing shot of St. Matthew Hospital. It's a really tender moment between Alex and Walker here.
And they're pretty much doing the ultrasound because Alex is pregnant with Walker's child. And this is after they've been married. So everything's legit.
Alex is calling the shots. And she's like, I don't want to know if it's a boy or a girl. And Walker's like, okay.
You didn't know. He's like, whatever.
You know why that is, though?
Because he already knows.
It's because he already knows.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you go from this like hopeful, very happy, in this hospital with these two people, and then there's a really menacing transition. It's like, and it zooms into this fence that's covered in spray paint, and there's like a teenage kid tagging a fence.
Right. And then supposedly the other rival gang that he's tagging on their turf, they're like, hey, what are you doing? And he like kind of starts running. And these kids, how old do you think these kids are?
The kid tagging is like maybe 10.
Yeah.
And then the rival gang, it's like led by this kid who's like Rufio's age. So like 16.
Yeah, and I think you made a reference to Jinkos. I mean, they have like those long Jinko shorts.
Oh yeah.
Like amazing, just style.
That's the only reason I think they don't catch him. Because as soon as he sees them, he's like, oh no, I gotta run. And so he hightails it to the Christian Community Center that's in the neighborhood. And the only reason a 9-year-old is able to outrun like teenage gang members is because all the teenage gang members are wearing Junkos and wallet chains.
Yeah,
So
they kind of have to briskly walk. They can't really run with those. Yeah.
It's more of a waddle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So he makes it to this Christian Community Center, and we're like, what is this?
But it's okay. They don't leave you hanging for long. They bring you right inside the community center. And right in there, we see Trevette and Gage, and they appear to be... I've never coached a game of basketball in my life, but I'm pretty sure this isn't how you do it, and that's sitting by the sidelines chatting with another adult with a whistle in your mouth.
Yeah, not paying attention to what the kids are doing. Right.
Yeah. But they're talking about how great the community center is and how awesome this dude Boomer is. It's like, who's this Boomer guy? And out walks the mountain of a man himself, Mr. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Hulk Hogan.
Thank you. Yeah. He walks in and you're like, wow, he's like the size of both of Gage and Trevette. And his neck is like the same width of his head.
So they're like, man, Boomer, he's doing such a great job. And in classic Walker style, Gage and Trevette do not care that they were overheard talking about Boomer. And he shamelessly just walks in and is like, it's just been really great getting this community center up and running, and just got to get this thing put together, and I got to get it pieced together like this boom box that I've been working on.
Yeah, and Trevette's like, man, you have to really know your way around electronics to fix that boombox.
I know. It's got like 3 wires in it.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? And he's like, well, I had 10 years to learn. And we're left to assume, wait, was Boomer in prison for 10 years?
Or maybe he just was really into electronics for 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. He probably worked at a Radio Shack, right, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. He was a regional manager.
At the end of his 10 years, he just had to sell cell phones, and he said, screw this, I'm starting a community center.
Yeah, right on, brother.
We're doing some fanfic here.
Yep. I'm gonna put some Jack Kirby art on the wall, and it's gonna be a community center. So, anyways, as they're talking, Danny Knight, this boy
who was spray painting on Rebel turf,
he escapes the rival gang into the community center, and Boomer, of course, gets in the middle because the rival gang chases him in, and Boomer's all like, "Look, man, this is neutral ground here, and I don't want anyone facing off." And they're all like, yeah, whatever. We'll be waiting outside for this kid. And then the kid is like, oh, fine, I'll just wait here. And Boomer's all like, my name's Boomer. what's your name? And the kid's all like, Danny Knight. And Boomer's like, well, you want to play some basketball? And the kid's like, basketball's for squares. This place is lame. I'm a blade. Blades rule. Hashtag Blades rule.
Yeah. And so pretty much Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Boomer, is like, look, man, you know, you don't have to play basketball if you want, but you might want to because those guys are going to be waiting outside for you, and you're going to need to kill some time in here.
I think 90% of this episode is just coercing children to do your bidding. Like adults coercing children to do things.
That's the only reason to have kids.
It's a lot of reverse psychology. That's really what it is. It's like Boomer's all like, well, you know, whatever, man, suit yourself. But, you know, I bet you can't actually play basketball. And the kid's like, okay, fine. So he plays some basketball. And at the end of the night, Danny's like hesitant to leave because, you know, the rival gang is probably waiting for him outside. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I could walk you home. And Danny's all like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's a free country. And so, not surprisingly, the rival gang is still waiting for Danny outside. But just as things are about to come to a head, things get even spicier because Danny's brother comes out with his gang. And there's quite a bit of a showdown in the parking lot. But before the showdown happens, boom, commercial break to the credits. But guess what? After the credits, nothing big happens.
Oh, imagine that.
Yep. Boomer basically says, this is a place of peace. And then the Rangers help in their typical way, which is they tried to resolve a problem by, through overzealous action.
And flashing their badges.
Yeah, so they flashed their badges and then shoved a bunch of people, and then everything settled down.
One weird thing about this episode, and this is not, typical because we've seen previous episodes where this was not the case with gangs in Walker, Texas Ranger. This is like drug dealing gangs here. Okay, 2 different drug dealing gangs. I don't think we see any gang members with weapons the whole episode.
True.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Wouldn't they be pulling their weapons on each other and like all this stuff and like...
I think the show's gone soft.
Yeah.
In Test of Faith, an 8-year-old brings a gun into a school and shoots somebody.
Right. Or even in the neighborhood.
Yep, she gets shot.
In a drive-by. And this, they're like, you know what? We're going to deal with the really hard topic of gangs, but we're not going to keep it real like we did before.
Maybe this is more realistic. It's nonviolent crime. So, anyways, cooler heads prevail, and the Blades and the Guardians go back to doing their thing. And the next day, we see the leader of the Guardians, who is a 17-year-old kid. He walks out of their house. It's one of the houses they use for gangs throughout the entire series of Walker, Texas Ranger.
Which is kind of just like a ranch house with a porch.
Yeah, I think they bought like 4 houses, and they just use them as sets. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, local gangs, you can use these on off seasons.
Yeah. So this Cadillac pulls up, the window rolls down menacingly, and the leader of the Guardians, Ace, hands in a big wad of cash to this dude who's like total dweebus, and his name is Mr. Carson.
And apparently he must be like a big drug dealer or distributor.
Yeah, it would seem that the Guardians aren't really pulling their weight because apparently the Christian Community Center, which is run by Boomer, is really harsh in the buzz and cutting down on the number of deals going down in the area. So he offers Ace a bit of an incentive for, taking care of things with the community center.
Right. They want Boomer out of there. He's messing with the vibe of the turf war.
Yeah. And, Zoom transition to the Christian Community Center where Walker's just getting in his daily community service, which consists of him drinking coffee while watching kids play basketball and talking to Hulk Hogan.
Well, yeah, I mean...
That's community service on many levels, really. But, they're talking about Boomer's experience with Danny Knight the night prior. And Walker's like, I ran a check on Danny Knight. It's like, how?
Kid's a juvenile. Records are sealed, buddy.
Right. He's like 9 years old. What are you checking? And he's like, oh, yeah, well, just to give him a tragic backstory, his father was killed and his brother Mike is the head of the gang, the Blades, which he belongs to. So, Walker and Boomer, they're like, man, this kid, Danny, he's got such a tragic backstory. And unfortunately, that backstory is so common in this neighborhood. And, what can we really do to bring this community together? And Walker's all like, hey, man, Boomer, you're doing a great job with this community center, but I'm going to one-up you and come up with an idea that's going to work. And his grand scheme is basically to trick a bunch of kids to hang out with each other.
Yeah, a lot of deception going on here.
At a Christian youth center. Yeah.
Yeah, the Christianity doesn't have anything to do with this plan currently. They're luring them in using pizza and soda.
Right, but it's not nefarious. They want them to, patch things up so they're not in the gang anymore and to just play basketball. So I think it's for a good cause. So Walker and Boomer pull up in Walker's truck. Is that what it was?
Oh, yeah, it's Walker's truck. And the bed of Walker's truck is not full of criminals. Instead, it's full of soda and pizzas. And the pizzas, they clearly, couldn't get enough pizza from one place.
There were different boxes.
All the pizzas are in different types of boxes.
Boomer's like, hey, you can have some pizza if you want to help us carry these in there. No strings attached. So they're just trying to get him to come in, right? They're kind of like, I don't know about this. And then Walker lifts up the pizza to his nose and smells it and goes, pepperoni, my favorite. Then the kid's like, well, it is pizza. Let's help them carry it in. So they start carrying in the pizzas. And then the other gang of kids is like, oh,
we'll just pop in for a quick slice.
Yeah, that's the quote. Yeah. So both rival gangs are brought together into the Christian Community Center, just carrying pizza in there. And then Walker is sitting in the bleachers holding a slice of pizza nonchalantly. He's like, oh, Danny, I heard you were pretty good with the ball. I bet you couldn't do that again today. And then Walker continues eating his pizza.
Now, at this point in time, there is something that the music supervisor wrote for this episode that is just beyond outrageous.
Yeah.
It is a rap song that is just really, really special. I found a digital version of this script, and the script has the actual song in it.
Are you serious?
The lyrics too?
Okay, yeah, I've got the whole lyrics here.
Well, before we do this. All right, so Walker's eating the slice. He's chiding Danny Knight. Okay, he says, "Bet you can't play basketball, right?" And so he's like, "Oh, try me!" And they throw him the ball, and that's when this song starts. Okay.
That's when the beat drops.
Yeah, that's when the beat drops on the song that I'm assuming is called I Got the Skills. Do they have a title for it in the script, Evan?
No, but it's got to be I Got the Skills.
Okay. I'm a back big breaker. I'm a 360 spinner. I'm a slam dunk daddy. In a word, I'm a winner. You know I got the skills, got the game, the thrills. Gonna make $1 million, run up a lot of bills. I know how to jump. I know how to skip. When I show up to play, you best give me no lip. Couldn't hear this line cause Walker and Boomer be talking, saving kids' lives through pizza hawking. I got the skills. You know I got the skills.
Got the skills.
I'm no look passer, I'm a topless man. Check out my stats, I'm the king of assist, man. I can run, I can rebound, I can play all kind of D. There's no I in team, the team is in me. I'm cutting to the left, I'm cutting to the right. I got a biscuit in a bucket, I can go 50 all night. Anytime I want it, I can get a triple-double. If you try to guide me, got a world of trouble. I got the skills.
I got the skills.
You know I got the skills. Skills. I'm bringing down the hammer when I start to D-rope. If you see an open lane, no one's go with the cup. You better false hoper, I'm a baseline jumper. When I crash the boards, I'm a flat-out thumper. I'm chatting up the zebra so I can get a call. When it's winning time, I say, brother, give me the ball. You want to see some moves? You know I got them. When I put up the J, it's hitting nothing but the bottom. You know I got the skills. Got the skills.
Here's my question for you. Did you find this script or did you have to pause it every time and get the verse?
I had to pause it. And our friend Nate redid the beat for me and added in the guitars and stuff. So we're going to be putting out a release of this record. My question to you, Evan, is I had to make up some lines because I couldn't hear them because Walker and Boomer were talking over it. So you've got the stuff that's underneath? Where did you find that?
I did a Google search for, I'm a backboard breaker, I'm a slam dunk daddy.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have competing lyrics. My version and the version that's in the script. Did you find the script?
It appears to be the script, yeah.
For this whole episode?
Yeah. It's on sublikescript.com.
Oh my god.
Which means I could probably find all these, but...
So are there others on the... Yeah, I mean, there's got to be other Walker scripts on there too. You better check that out.
Yeah, this is great. We've really gone full circle here. So they basically trick these kids into the community center with pizza and soda. Walker taunts a child and goads him into playing a game of horse. And then he's like, well, you know what? I think you guys need to have a little bit of a basketball game. And so the kids, even though they're from rival gangs, they start playing basketball. Cut to the Blades hangout. And we get to see the Blades here. They're hanging out at another house that I think we see in other Walker episodes. And raise your hand if you're surprised that Mr. Carson rolls around to these guys and is working the gangs against each other.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising.
Let the record show that none of us are raising our hands.
No.
So, I think that was supposed to be a surprise to the viewer, but it was not. And he's basically like, look, man, you guys got to stop that community center too, because it's cutting into my business. And everyone's like, Mike, where's your brother? He hasn't been here all day. And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Cut back to the community center where they're still playing this basketball game. And unfortunately, the two younger kids, one is the Ace's cousin and the other is Danny. They bump into each other and, they look like they're about to go at it. It's quickly broken up by Boomer, who teaches them really how to settle a dispute.
Right. And Adam, our Walkerstrator, really kind of captured this moment for this week's Walkerstration. Bob, you want to dig into this?
So in the episode, Boomer decides that these kids are fighting. We should put them in pads and in the ring and have them box with no training or anything like that. So Adam has put the image for this week is a very pensive Hulk Hogan. How would you describe that look?
He looks like he just polished off an entire plate of General Tso's chicken and has just read the fortune cookie.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. And he's reading out the numbers in the speech bubble here. He says, violence only leads to more violence, which is what he says in this episode. But his solution is to set the two rival gangs up in a boxing ring and have them fight each other.
I don't know if Child Protective Services decided to do an inspection of this community center. At that point in time, they'd say, you are shut down immediately because you basically coerced two rival gangs to come into your place, and two adults set up a makeshift boxing ring and are having rival gangs battle each other until they're exhausted in a ring.
While their friends cheer and scream.
Right. I bet you Gage and Trevette were betting money on it too.
Oh yeah, there was some money being thrown down for sure.
So they fight it out and, they're all worn out, but, all the better for it, I guess. And then this is when Walker, he plays his final card, which is, hey, you guys are pretty good hoopers. There's a team from another community center a couple towns over that they're looking for a challenger, and they think they can take you guys out. What do you guys think about trying to take them down?
Oh man, they're talking smack about us.
Yeah, and they're like, we'll take them down, right? And then this other kid's like, damn straight.
So let's circle back here. He brought them in by bribing them with free food,
pizza and soda. Yep.
Yeah, pit them against each other.
Well, he taunted them into playing a game first of all.
And then uses their, teenage angst to get them to, they're super competitive. They're teenagers, right? Or young adults.
All right, yeah.
If they hate another team, then they won't hate each
other. Okay, well, anyway, so Walker's like, all right, so we already brought them into the same building. Now we show them that there's an outside force coming against both gangs that will bring both those gangs together.
Yeah, so at this point, they're like, okay, well, I guess we all have to practice together as a team now. And so they do. They start practicing. Cut to Team B Rangers, which are Trevette, Gage, and Sydney, and they're just cruising around in their, state-issued vehicle. Probably the most realistic part of this episode, where just three law enforcement officers are just cruising a neighborhood looking to bust anybody. Hey, isn't that guy in the Blades? And like, yeah. So they just pull over and just run at them. Shouting that they're Texas Rangers. And, obviously a fight ensues.
way past due for a fight in this episode. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, we're like 30 minutes into this episode by now. So, it's your run of the Judson Mills fight.
Okay.
Where, Trevette and Gage are both pitted against people who are worthy adversaries. And then Sydney is pitted against two people and she does some sort of gimmick. So she'll either flip over something or run up a tree and flip over it and come down behind somebody. Or in this case, it's two guys and she'll just whack their heads together and then,
That's a classic.
Go. So she takes out two dudes while Trevette just sort of like brutally beats somebody. And Gage does something gimmicky too. So instead, Gage gets thrown around by a dude who's like twice his size, but then he still bests him in the end. This one features some pretty significant rumbling thunderclap punches where the rumbling kind of starts before the hit even happens.
Oh, wow. That's
Pretty
awesome.
Good. But, that was kind of pointless. That doesn't do anything for the plot. Doesn't advance anything. They just beat some people up. And at this point, like, kids are all playing basketball. The gangs are just kind of doing their own thing. And Mr. Carson is getting pretty pissed because neither of the gangs are actually doing anything to stop this community center. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to break into this community center. So he breaks into the community center and, they trash everything. They stab all the basketballs and they spray paint the Guardians tags all over everything to make it seem like the Guardians did it. In the end, it's just all been destroyed. And the kids show up the next day to play some basketball with each other and, everyone arrives and the place has been trashed. And the Guardians are all like, whoa, the Guardians didn't do this. The Guardians didn't do this. It wasn't us. But everyone helps them clean up. And cleanup is very heartfelt. So they're doing this cleanup and, the kids are scrubbing paint off. And unfortunately, the vandals picked up Boomer's boombox and threw it through a plate glass window. So his boombox is pretty busted. The kids are all sort of settling down, and before they start up their basketball again, it's lesson time here. It's time for the kids to learn that Boomer was once a jackal. What's a jackal, Bob?
That'd be some kind of gang that's apparently very well known in the greater Dallas area.
Legendary.
But yeah, we find out that he learned from his experiences as a jackal.
He still keeps the jackal tattoo as a reminder of all the stupid mistakes he made by being in that gang.
Which is saying a lot because it means that he has to reapply it every week.
Right, yeah.
Right, exactly.
And this is when Boomer plays his final card. His final card being Christianity. And he starts telling his story and they're like, man, he's like, yeah, I was a really violent guy.
And they do a flashback, and we're kind of like, yes, we're finally going to get to see Hulk Hogan be a badass.
He's like, until I learn the world of the Lord our Savior, Jesus Christ. And that's the point when, like, if you're a kid that's been coming to that community center, you're like, oh, no.
The pizza was the Kool-Aid. I get it now.
And, this is when we learned that Boomer, he was actually arrested by Walker himself.
Which I was wondering, are they going to make him an old friend, quote unquote?
Oh, I didn't even
Absolutely.
And that made him an old friend of Walker's. But all we see is Hulk Hogan being, like, walked down the halls of this jail, and he's like, and we're like, yes, this is sick. And he's being taken to like solitary confinement, and they put him away. They slam the door, and he's left in solitary confinement all by himself, like you're supposed to be in solitary confinement, right?
Yeah, except for your neighbor, who apparently you can hear through the walls.
Yeah, he's like, and then I heard the voice, and at that point I was like, okay, so it's like God talking to him,
right?
now?
Yeah.
But no, instead it's a voice reading scripture to him.
So he pretty much shows Boomer the word of God and converts him to Christianity and changes his ways. How long are we to assume that he was in that solitary confinement cell?
A few hours.
And there was like a few like flashes of light, which I'm thinking, are they going to do divine intervention? But they don't really go there.
The guy in the cell next to him gets released before him, and Boomer looks through the hole in his door, and he sees, surprise, surprise, the person reading him the scripture is a black person. And at that point, we learn that, like, before this point, Boomer was like a white supremacist skinhead, I guess. So, after that story, the kids start playing basketball, and they're like, gang violence isn't the only thing. There's more to it than that. And we've got God on our side now or something. But the two gangs that have, young members on either side of this basketball team, they're like, whoa, 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 what is going on here? And they actually see that rival gangs are playing with each other in the community center, and they get pissed, and they come into the community center, and tempers are about to flare when Boomer comes in along with the Rangers. And Boomer has brought along 3 pals from prison who I guess are recent parolees. And they are basically trying to scare not just the young kids, but now the older members of the gang too, who initially kind of guffaw at this because the 3 goons are basically an enormous black dude who's like wider than he is tall, a dude who just stands in the background who just looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin but says nothing, and then another dude in like a camo vest with a metal eye patch.
Awesome.
His name is Slash.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah, like the gang members come in and they're like acting all tough, and then Boomer comes in with his buddies from jail, and they're like, "Oh, you think you're tough? We'd eat you up in prison." You're the real big man. You be a baby in prison. And they keep doing that kind of motif, and then they start doing like the terrible stories of their experience, like, my whole life was taken away from me.
Slash, he shows off what's under the eye patch, which is basically just like a contact lens making his eye look milky. But, he claims that his eye was like cut out or something. And
it was slashed out.
In prison.
There you go. Yeah, slashed out.
Yeah,
that's why they call him Slash, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, apparently this seems to get through to all the gang members, and they learn how tragic it is to be in a gang. And so instead, Walker makes his play on the older gang members and pits them against each other. And lo and behold, they love playing basketball against each other. And this is working. Meanwhile, Mr. Carson's cruising around in his Cadillac, and he has, quote, no lowlives to shake down.
Yeah, because both of the gangs in the neighborhood are now just playing basketball now.
Yep. And, Walker uses this rival town, which is totally unsuspecting, I'm sure. They're like, probably just like this wholesome town in rural Texas. It's like, oh, yeah, we play at the community center. It's like, oh, we're going to play against these guys in Dallas. But little do they know that they're playing against, like, rival gang members. But at this point, the basketball and rehabilitation focus is really not on the kids anymore. It's on the older gang members. And they're all wearing quote-unquote lame uniforms, which are blue basketball jerseys. And their team name is the Blue Angels.
Right, which I'm assuming Walker picked out.
I think it was Boomer. Let's face it. He's
a holy roller now.
So, they're not doing so great because the black players are only passing to the black players and vice versa. And, it's just not working out. And they're getting trounced on the court. And you'd think there'd be like halftime or something like that in between. Instead, they call a timeout near the end of the game. And it's the longest timeout ever. And this is when they learn from Boomer that God doesn't see us in color. He sees us in character.
Right. And then he goes, okay, you black kid, you go over here. You white kid, you go over here. Because he sees them by color. And he integrates the bench by seeing them by the color of their skin.
I mean, this is a real Remember the Titans moment.
Yeah.
Except this will be Forget the Walker moment.
Oh, man. It was... I
think the kids these days call it cringe.
It was cringeworthy, man.
So, of course, predictably, once they stop seeing each other in color and see each other in character, they actually win. After their first win, back at the community center, the kids are changing back into their street clothes and hitting the road. And back in the main gym, Walker's sitting around while Boomer's working on his boombox again.
Got to get those jams back.
Yeah. Gotta have them.
I got the skills.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Ace comes out and he's like, the Guardians didn't trash your place, And And they're like, "We believe you." And he's like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yes, because we're channeling our inner Jesus right now."
Yeah.
What? Yep. And so then we get a montage. The boombox is back up and running. We get the I got the skills.
I've got the skills.
Yeah, and this time it's the older gang members.
You
that
know
are practicing.
I've got the skills.
Meanwhile, all the gang members they're quitting their relationship with Mr. Carson. He's not happy about it. Understandably so. Like, if his only daily activity was driving between the two gangs and getting like, a couple $100 from each of them, and he doesn't have that now, like, how is he going to pay for his Cadillac?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to have a chauffeur. He's going to be driving himself around if he's lucky.
He's going to be riding a bike around, maybe.
Yeah.
You could probably afford a Geo Metro or something like that.
Hey, maybe a Kia Soul.
Yeah, so, there's a montage, and the kids quit selling drugs, and now they're excelling as a unified basketball team. And there's a clip of the crowd watching one of the games.
Oh, no.
There's like a woman who's, I think she's actually the mother of Danny and Mike, who are the Blades members. And she's like, "Wow, I could never get them to do anything positive before, but now they're playing basketball. This is fantastic." And there's like some old white dude with a beard. It looks like they just like pulled him off some front porch, smashed his banjo, and sat him up in the set him up in the rafters. And he's like, "It's like we have a community now." Like we have a real community. It's like, is that really what you wanted, man?
Oh, it's, wow. Yeah, it's so heavy-handed.
It's so Walker.
It is. It's glorious.
Oh, man. But the next morning, Boomer, he pulls up in his convertible, and he's got his newspaper and his cup of coffee, and he goes over to the community center, and he notices that it's been broken into. He's like, "All right, well, this is no good. I guess I better go inside and see what's going on." And inside, he's basically ambushed and smacked with a baseball bat.
And he spills his coffee on the ground. Like, he falls next to his hot coffee. It doesn't look like it poured on him, but it was close.
Yeah, it's like a crime scene, like a perfect splatter of the coffee and the newspaper down. And they basically throw him in a van and drive off, and Danny sees it. Now, one thing we didn't see, and I would have loved to have seen, was a handful of gang members trying to move the, 7-foot-tall, 400-pound Hulk Hogan from the ground into a van. Yeah. They don't show that.
Yeah, they kind of like cut to them walking him along. Like they're telling him where to go, but it was like, no, he's pretty much still telling you where he's going to go.
Right. Yeah, you got to pick that guy up. Come on now. And just as we learn that Danny sees it and he goes back to his brother and tells them what's going on, Gage and Sydney pull up for their, morning community service. What are they doing, right?
I mean, they're probably just looking for empty warehouses to knock boots.
Yeah, sure. So they show up and they're like, "Oh no, it's been broken into. This isn't good." So they like pull out their guns. They don't find Boomer in there, and then they see the spilled coffee. And so they call into Ranger headquarters, and Walker picks up on the first ring, and they're like, "We're at the community center, and something's wrong. It's been broken into. There's, quote, no sign of Boomer." And they're standing right over a newspaper and Boomer's coffee on the ground. I would say that is exactly a sign of Boomer, right?
Yeah. It's today's paper.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Excellent detective work, team.
The coffee's still warm.
Right. We can neither confirm nor deny that Boomer is here. By the way, his car's out front.
Right. Yeah.
We parked behind it. No sign of Boomer.
It was a white convertible
with license plate Hulkster. Yeah. So they're like, "Okay, I guess we got to scramble. He's been kidnapped or something." And the gangs, they join up together, and they would run to go to where they thought Boomer was, but they're wearing Junkos, so that they've got to sort of shamble.
Is it Junkos or Jinkos? I always thought they were Jinkos.
Jinkos. Sorry. Yeah, so the gangs are on the case, and they're pretty sure they know where Boomer is. And meanwhile, the only person who doesn't know where Boomer is Boomer himself. He's brought into a warehouse, and he's like, you can shoot me, but what's happened has happened, and there's no reversing it. And Mr. Carson's like, I'm not going to shoot you. I'm going to hang you.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to hang you, Boomer.
This episode gets real dark.
Yeah.
Right?
And they wrapped the noose around his neck.
Yeah, this perfectly white noose just put down from the ceiling.
They just went to Home Depot and got the rope.
Right, but I still think they try to hang Boomer. That rope's going to break.
That's a good point, yeah. Or his neck is so huge that it'll probably just slip over his head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, they could just slide right off.
But they put the noose around Hulk Hogan's neck, and it still doesn't feel like he's in peril because he could still wreck all the people around him.
Yeah, he could pick all of them up and throw them. And then if they tried to hoist him up any pipe, like he'd break the pipe because he's too big.
Yeah, and again, none of them had weapons.
Yeah.
Very true. There was never really a sense of danger throughout the entire episode, was there?
No.
No, not really, no.
Anyways, they're about to string up Boomer, and the gangs come in, and they just start pounding. They start wailing.
And not gangs. These are little kids. So it's like... It was like the young gangs from both of them teamed up to save Boomer, and they get the Mr. Carson in a compromising position. And are they going to kill him or something?
Well, they're like beating up on the 3 goons that have kidnapped Boomer, and Boomer, who's got a noose around his neck and is like hanging, shouts in a commanding voice like, "No, stop. They don't deserve this." Like,
you'll regret this. Yeah.
Right.
You'll regret this, little brothers.
Right. And they're like, oh yeah, we got to save Boomer. So they take Boomer down, and they put the noose around Mr. Carson's neck, and they're about to hang the dude.
Well, he is a drug dealer.
Right. Boomer's like, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. He's like, he's not worth it, you know?
Yeah. So his sage words do stay their hands, and they do not, in fact, hang Mr. Carson. And we have to assume that he is thrown in jail. At which point they have the championship game that night, I think. Of course, they win, right? Because they couldn't possibly lose and learn from adversity.
Well, the gangs are united against an outside force from another town, and they learn to work together after this whole episode. They win the championship. And I want to see the same old guys in the crowd this time too. Like, oh, yeah.
Yep, he's loving it.
We're really a community now. Oh.
Yep. And, Walker turns to Boomer at the end, and he's like, you're really making a difference, Boomer. And Boomer says...
Oh,
he's like, no, God's making a difference. So yeah, there you go. That about sums up this episode. We'd love to give a shout out to our friend and collaborator Adam Lauritsen, who's been drawing the amazing Walkerstrations featured on our social media. I will say he probably never thought he'd be drawing Hulk Hogan's bald head, but he did. Be sure to check out his other art on Instagram at @ImaginationRunAmok. When we come back, it'll be time for us to each rate Division Street on a scale of 0 to 10 boots to the face, resulting in our patented Roundhouse Roulette episode ranking, the complete results of which are available on our website, roundhouseroulette.com. Don't go away. You can't put me away, man.
Like hell I can't. We'll see if 30 days in the hole don't sort you out, tough guy.
I guess I better save my energy, brother. I'm gonna need it.
Excuse me, brother. Have you heard the good word?
Who's there? And how come I can hear you through the wall? This is supposed to be solitary.
Just a lost soul, such as yourself. Prison budgets the way they are. Solitary isn't what it used to be. Thankfully, I'm able to share something with you that just might help turn your life around.
I don't want none of your old-time religion, mister.
I'd have nothing of the sort. To start, could I interest you in enormously extreme explosions?
Yeah, brother.
How about overtly long car chases?
Yeah.
Cranium-cracking spin kicks?
Oh, heck yeah, brother.
And, bitter pill moral lessons?
What was that?
Nothing.
Okay, I'm interested. What are you selling?
Well, we here at Roundhouse Roulette have pledged to deliver the light of Walker, Texas Ranger, to the world. If you'd like to join us in that mission, please share the pod with a friend, or leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts. It truly helps other Walkerites find the cast. If you'd like to further support the show, be sure to check out our fine apparel and vintage action figures at roundhouseroulette.com, or join the fun on our Patreon page. Most importantly, though, thank you for listening.
A podcast? You know I don't have no iPod up in this box. I just have a Zoom that's not format compatible. Hello? Brother? Maybe it was all in my head. You know what? When I get out of here, I'm going to start a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. Welcome back, brothers. What did you guys think of this episode?
Yeah, man, I was really kind of excited to have Hulk Hogan in a Walker, Texas Ranger episode. That sounds like it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And it was not.
Nope, it was not.
It was a totally squandered opportunity here. Walker did absolutely nothing. The most awesome thing that Walker did this episode was let us know that his favorite pizza was a pepperoni pizza. He didn't even fight. Really, the only redeeming thing of this episode was the music, how ridiculous it was. And that's not really a saving grace there. So I think it's generous giving this episode a 2. That's what I'm going to do. I'm sorry.
No apologies necessary. This is our podcast. You can do whatever you want. As Danny would say, it's a free country. Bob, where do you come down on this beast?
Well, I tried to make a pros and cons list, and the pros had exactly one thing in it, and that was music was insane. But it was so bad, and then it just kept going on. And I was like, okay, well, this would be more funny if we didn't have like a third of the episode being, montages with this music. But okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Hulk Hogan. He didn't do anything. He didn't fight anybody. He didn't even get mad.
In the flashback, he got mad, but then he found Christ.
Yeah, like immediately.
Yeah, so come on.
The story didn't really go anywhere either.
No, like we've seen this done in other Walker episodes better.
Right. Yeah, I had 2 as well. And that's really just because Hulk Hogan was actually in the episode.
Right. Yeah.
If it was anybody else, I think I would have given it a 1.
Yeah, I think all you really have to do is look at the stat line here. So,
not good.
Number of explosions, 0.
Goose egg.
Now, keep in mind, this is season 9, right? Where, like, someone could throw a baseball bat at a car and it would explode. Like,
because it should.
Yeah, things are just set to blow in this season. So, like, at the very least, when they threw the stereo, it should have exploded. Come on now. What are we doing here? 0 explosions. Vehicle chases, 0. Because, let's face it, none of the gang members probably have learner's permits at this point.
Yeah, right.
Number of fights, 1. That's being very generous because Walker wasn't even involved in that fight. That was a Gage Sidney Intervet fight. And number of roundhouse kicks, a big goose egg, 0. Yeah. So wow. Walker does almost nothing except lay up a couple basketballs. I'm giving this one a 1 because it was awful. The only thing that gives it a point was Slash and his eye patch. That's what I'm giving it an extra point for. This is very close to a 0 for me. This episode's bad.
It really
is. It's
yeah.
just awful. And hearing that Hulk Hogan is in it makes it even worse because you're like, at least Hulk Hogan's going to like throw somebody. Like I wanted him just to pick someone up over his head and throw them. And he had a chance to do it too. He could have thrown one of the prison orderlies. That would have almost done it for me, but no. Well, that gives this episode a total roundhouse rating of 1.666 boots to the face. Ah! Now, that might be the worst rating we've given an episode, but I don't feel that that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. If it isn't the worst rating, I'm going to change mine to bring it down.
I almost went lower. I probably could have been convinced to go lower, but no, it's in that ballpark.
All right, well, despite the poor rating, I think we can all agree that this is still probably the best religious conversion program out there. So, if you're looking to get that done, maybe give this a shot. Anyways, let us know what you think on social media or by emailing us at roundhouseroulette@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll spin that Roundhouse Roulette wheel and select our next episode. All right, we're back. You ready to spin that wheel, Bob?
Let's go.
Excellent. Season 5 is like prime Walker. Episode 8, A Silent Cry. Do you think this one's about like a deaf child or something like that? You think someone is deaf in this episode?
I hope so.
Now, why would you hope so? It's a weird thing to say.
I know. Walker takes it personally when his friend's daughter is the latest casualty in a series of rapes. Ooh.
Dark.
Infiltrating Dallas nightclubs to go after the assailants with full force.
We hope you'll join us next time when we share our reactions to Season 5, Episode 8, A Silent Cry. And in the meantime, share your opinions with us on Facebook and on Instagram at Roundhouse Roulette and on Twitter at Roundhouse Pod. And rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, please, or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next time.
May the eyes of the Ranger be upon you.
When you're in Texas, look behind you. Oh, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.